About 25 years ago, maybe even 30, that was when I had a log job up on the old dump road up in Underhill. It was an abandoned old class 4 road then at the time. It was in pretty rough shape. If you had a good 4-wheel drive, you could make it through, but you had to be half crazy. Now, it went from one town road to the other. It's about 2 miles long. I improved it for about the first half mile so I could get a log truck into my landing, which I had to clear. I cleared the landing. This was in the fall, actually around October or so. I was going to be there all winter, so I brought my shanty in. I always had a shanty when I was logging, just about all the time, especially if I was going to be at a log job for a while, and especially if I was going to be there in the winter. My shanty was, I think, 6 foot by 10 foot, had a nice little wood stove in it, and, I could toast up a sandwich and bowl of soup and could, have some warm, dry gloves to swap in then, a spare jacket if it got cold and stuff. My dog would always stay there with me. I always had a dog with me working in the woods. My dad made my shanty. I loved my shanty. I could have placed a file my saw out of the cold and wind and everything, and it kept the guy working. When the wind was howling down the ridges out there on a winter's day, you could get in the shanty and get a little respite before you go out for another heat in the afternoon and stuff. Had a radio in it, and I even had a little battery-operated TV for quite a while where I could at noon catch the end of The Price is Right and watch Cher Meyer to boot. Now, I never locked up my shanty. I had a little sign I had on the door. It said, "Welcome to use it, but please don't abuse it." And that always worked. I'd see signs of people being there. I can read sign, and I would see tracks and stuff, and maybe somebody would move something around, but they always left it alone. Well, like I say, it was in the fall of the year when I was working there, and it wasn't long after I moved in where I start to see signs of people being in the shanty and screwing around. They're doing donuts on my landing, and they're leaving beer cans in the shanty and shooting up liquor bottles on the log pile and stuff and everything. And just about always on the weekends, It's getting really pissing me off. They really didn't do nothing bad, just pissed me off. One time, an old guy lived down on the corner off the town road where he turned on. They busted off his mailbox, brought it to my shanty, and nailed it to the side of the shanty. I mean, these guys had about as much common sense as God gave gravel. So, one Monday morning, I come in, and my shanty doors are wide open. All my little tools, I didn't keep nothing real valuable. All my little tools are thrown out in the snow into the trees and stuff. This is by November by then. And, my chairs are all smashed, my radio smashed, my TV smashed. Everything is busted in the shanty. They even broke my broom in my dustpan. What the hell? And then I noticed all the gauges of my equipment are all smashed. Oh, mister, I'm hotter than a barefoot hornet on a hot rock. It's hard enough making a living in these woods without having to deal with shit like this. I mean, I've got bills to pay. I've got children I'm raising and stuff. If I miss a day or two of work, might mean that I don't get a load of logs in that week. It's the only load of logs I'll get in. I work alone. No logs, no paycheck. What are they going to do next? Burn my shanty to the ground? Torch my equipment? To them, it's just fun and games. To me, it's my livelihood. Oh, I'm pissed. I called the state police. And they sent a trooper out, nice young guy and everything. And he comes out and he looks at it after he says, "Well, Mr. Torrey," he says, "I got to be honest with you," he says, "there's not a whole lot we can do. We're spread so thin," he says, "we'll probably never catch them. And even if we did," he says, "they'd just get a slap on the wrist." And then he looks at me, he says, if I was you, Mr. Torrey, I'd take care of this problem yourself." Yes. Well, that was just what I was thinking. Because if I catch him, he's going to get more than a slap on the wrist. I'm going to slap him so hard, they'll wake up next week looking both ways for Sunday. I mean, they best have their soul with Jesus because their ass is going to be mine. So I come up with a plan. Like my dad said, you come up with enough ideas, sooner or later you get a good one. And once again, this was not a good idea. But nonetheless, the next Saturday, because this always happened on the weekend. The next Saturday, I tell my wife Karen, I say, honey, I said, I won't be home tonight. I'm going to be staying in the shanty. Now, I wasn't really going to stay in the shanty, but I didn't want to worry her. I had a couple reasons I didn't want to stay in the shanty. The first reason was I didn't like the idea of being boxed in there. And the second reason was that I didn't want to just scare them off. I wanted to catch these sons of bitches. So my plan was I worked all day in the woods, and then I brought a supper and I cooked it up on the shanty stove, had a nice supper. And then as it got dark, I took my truck and I backed it up my skid road, made about 50 yards where it turned into this grove of hemlocks. Parked it there where I could still see the shanty and everything, but hopefully they wouldn't see me. Now, working in the woods during the winter gets a feller pretty played out, and I knew I wouldn't be able to stay awake all night long, and I sure as hell didn't want to miss the festivities. So I devised a plan. I had a cure for that. I brought a big spool of monofilament fishing line, and I tied it across the driveway coming onto my land into a tree over there, ran it about this high right across the driveway, around another tree, and up through the woods, all the way around up to my truck, where I tied it to the side view, the side mirror out there, and I put a nice little bell on it. Now, as I snuggled into my truck for the wait, I had a camera, a baseball bat, and tucked right underneath my armpit, I had in a shoulder holster my Roscoe, a revolver. Now, I wasn't going to shoot anybody, but you got to remember, I'd been reading the sign here, and I knew that most likely, I knew for sure pretty much, I was going to be outnumbered. And they was drinking. I'd seen all the evidence of them drinking. And this time of year, in November, they's going to have firearms. And I knew if it came down to the short and curly, I'd much rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So I was ready for him. And as I sat there, I probably got to be about 9:30 or so when I dropped off. And I woke up around 11. And there's lights on the landing, and that bell's just ringing to beat 3 of a kind. And I bailed out of the truck, and I'm running down to the shanty, and I got my baseball bat in one hand and my camera in the other. And I'll be a bare-ass monkey's uncle. It was the state police. And let me tell you, I gave that trooper quite a start. Damn near got shot. And when I explained to him what I was doing, he looked at me like my cap went on all the way. And he says, got back in his cruiser, he looks at me, he says, well, happy hunting, Mr. Torrey. And he drove on off down the skid road, down my truck road. Now, a lot of people would think what I did there was pretty stupid, uncalled for, and didn't amount to a fart in a whirlwind. But I disagree. Because you see, back then, maybe even still now, a lot of people had these police radio scanners. And a lot of them were the same lowlifes that was trying to avoid the police. Because it wasn't just a few days later, I was down in Underhill Center's general store there, and I hear these guys talking with the guy at the counter, and they're saying, don't screw with that logger up on the old dump road. He's a crazy bastard. And I didn't have any more problems on my header for the rest of the year.